Intimacy cannot be taught. It must be experienced by each individual. Intimacy cannot be taught. It must be experienced by each individual. Many times we hear about intimacy, we hear about closeness and oneness with God, and we think we can be taught into it. And what I'm sharing is not a way to teach you into it, but to encourage and inspire you to find it, discover it, and develop it for yourself. Whatever intimacy looks like between you and the Father, it's something you must cultivate, something you get to when you spend time with Him. Because I can't teach you. Someone's like, well, teach them about the birds and the bees. Sure, I can teach you all about the birds and the bees, and we'll tackle those subjects at some point. But that's not intimacy. That's physical actions. There is something that happens in a heart. There is something that happens when you have oneness with Him that surpasses anything anyone can say or explain. And then you tell them, well, how'd you get there? Well, what did you do? And then they list off, well, I prayed a lot. Well, I fasted a lot. Well, I believed His word. And so many times there's so many ways that we start turning intimacy into a formula, and we try to get it to work in our life. What is the recipe to oneness with God? Well, you gotta be aware of Him. You gotta love Him and worship Him, and you gotta lay down your life and hate the flesh, and we give all these random things. When you meet people and you start talking to them and you find out people who have a rich intimacy with God, they hardly speak about it because it's too intimate, it's too private. They can speak about the results of intimacy. Well, I've seen these miracles, I've had these experiences, I've went to heaven, I've done these things, and we can share about the fruits of intimacy. And when they ask men of God and people like, well, what's your secret? He's like, I read the Bible and I work and live. It's like, to them, it's even strange to try to explain it. They're just living. What would you change to develop your intimacy? How does that even work? I'm thinking, man, it has to be a deep desire on the inside to want to be close, to want to be one with Him, to feel His breath on you, to be so close where you breathe on Him, where there's such a oneness where you know one another. Well, what does that look like? How do you get there? How do you achieve it? What's the secret? And then we can say, well, it's faith. You gotta have faith. A friend of mine says it's not faith, it's love. Faith works by love. You love somebody, you want to be with them. You love somebody, you want to think of them. I remember when I was so excited about Jesus, and it was all new to me. It was just about almost 15 years ago, and I'm just like thinking about Him all day, and I'm just smiling and thinking about Him and smiling, and someone's all like, hey, I know what's wrong with you. You're in love, aren't you? That's why you're glowing and shining. There's no person that I'm in love with. I'm in love with Jesus. But they're like, you're in love. I can tell. You can tell when people are in love. Their eyes are glowing. They're always smiling. There's always this muse. They're musing on the thing that they love. You can see that, man, there's love there. What if we have that with God? What if we have that when we love Him so much? When we develop this friendship, which words can't express. And whenever people ask me to try to explain or express, and now I can show you the pathway. I can equip you with all the tools that you need. I can introduce you to the Holy Spirit, who's your teacher, who can help you. But none of that replaces oneness with Him. None of that replaces that John 17 prayer, that they might be one in us. None of that can. It must be experienced. It must be developed in your own heart, and it might look totally different from mine, and that's okay. how you receive that, how you achieve that might look totally different. But sometimes there's mile markers where you can look and kind of see it like, man, I see a surrendered heart. Is that a key? Yeah. Man, I see a heart that's so centered and focused. Is that a part of it? Yeah. Man, I see someone who's constantly talking to God, and is that a part of it? Sure. Well, I see someone who's always worshiping and always praying in tongues. Could that be a part of it? It's like, yeah, that'll lead to it. So what is that intimacy? The Father so wants to be one with you. He so wants you to believe that. He so wants you to live out of that place of seated with Him. He wants that to become your reality. He wants you to be lost in Him. That's what I'm after. That's what my heart is thrilled to pursue and to know that it's available. I know it is. I can sense it. Sometimes I see it in other people's eyes that maybe they have a little bit richer intimacy than I do, but a lot of the same things they're doing, I'm doing. So I'm like, all right, I'm on the right track. Let's keep loving. Let's stay in there. Let's keep laying down anything that's trying to hinder or to take my mind and trying to distract. There's so many distractions in our life that I'm like, man, you would have intimacy with God tomorrow if you just turned off all the distractions. A friend of mine says I leave my phone with my sister and I say, do not give it to me until the evening, no matter how much I beg. And then goes into her other room and just gets lost in God. She's like, I needed to even get it out of my sight so I wouldn't be tempted or someone would be calling me. I just turned it off.